All right, so some more draft content. This is a player that people kept bringing up, Kyle Duggar, small school. I was like, okay, let me see if he's got some film. I watched a little bit of it, saw it was feasible, so I was like, okay, let's watch it together. So this is my first time really watching it. Letting you know again, YouTube, not easy to navigate, and we'll be watching it a little slower so we can see some things. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get this started. So nicely edited for us so we can see where he is with the arrow and all that. And I apparently had a good combine, which I expected when you got smaller school prospects that pop up. So it looks like they're in quarters coverage. And again, it's really hard, and I really don't like do secondary because there's no all 22 film. But this is it's kind of like a high school, but they got that far away film so you can kind of see them lining up. And definitely quarters, quarters or cover one, all that stuff. So he has the ability to flow downhill. See him coming down, gets in that tackle. And right away, I noticed he's really hunched. Hips are a little bit tight. But I seen him at the combine. He moves pretty well. Not the best mover, but still moves pretty well. All right, so let's see. Well, that's not him because he's way bigger than that. But so far, what you've seen, you just see him, and this is an angle a lot of people don't end up seeing the safety this far back, and you see how much they really do play off instinct. But earlier, you can see he's just like a lot bigger and stronger than a lot of these dudes, and that's going to be always the biggest thing. So play action there, redirects, and gets to the action. Not a huge sense of urgency, though, whenever he's coming down on a run. Jumps that post there. The ball goes a different way. But you saw him reading that post, looking to jump it. And so the big thing for me when you're talking about these small school prospects, I like to see the movement skills, the effort level, all that. So I like the way he arrives there into contact. He comes down and moves the pile there. Arrives with a bad attitude, as they say. And again, you see that speed turn. It's just his hips are a little stiff. So coming downhill. Now again, like I said, he doesn't really get there with a sense of urgency, but he does come downhill. He's not scared. I'm not sure what they're projecting him as, but he seems more like a strong safety to me. Good over the top coverage. I wish I could have saw him run. Because it'd be a lot easier when you see them move from middle of the field to the sideline or whatever. And so he ran around a 4.5, so not super fast. I think he's a pretty solid athlete, explosive more than anything. Missed that tackle coming downhill. Didn't really break down, kind of standing up high. And so you can see he's just really kind of sitting back and freelancing. Waiting for it, reacting. Kind of, that is the safety's job sometimes. But they're in this quarter look. Or it's either quarter or man. And so when you're in quarters, typically your safeties have kind of more of a free range where they can jump plays or anything. So he's over the middle of this play. But anyway, typically in quarters, like you'll have, especially a strong safety, they can spy or play like a hook, or they can, really pull the trigger because the corners are playing deep. And so you see him pulling the trigger on some of these plays. And so you can see he has that type of freedom. And again, you just see the way he comes downhill. I mean, he's built well. Definitely shows some explosion. I think he could be a striker, but he's not necessarily a downhill hammer. Or at least not showing that. And again, you talk about the stiff hips. Whenever there's a lateral movement, he's a little slow to pick that up. So again, out breaking route. And you see it like over and over, no matter really who the receiver is, when they go lateral, he has a tough time stopping. He has to really drive. So that's the thing, like people will be like, oh, he's stiff, or I'll say they're stiff, and they'll be like, well, he ran this 40. You don't have to be loose, and fluid to run a fast 40. You could just be fast in a straight line. I don't like the way he did that tackle right there. That's dangerous. All right, so quarter shell again. Picks up the man. I mean, he looks like he got real long arms. I would like him more physical against a tight end, something like that, a big slot in the box probably. The whole deep safety thing doesn't look too promising for NFL level. That wasn't even him. I'm not even sure what I had the arrow. All right, so a couple things that I'll say to that. That went by pretty quick. Well, there's a bunch of things. Number one, that's why people grading off highlights and stuff is tough when you're talking about secondary, even receivers sometimes, if you don't have all 22. It's very tough for you to say that. But number two, small school, you look, even when he makes a play or does something nice, you're like, but dude, these people suck. That's why it's so important to have film against a power conference team or whatever. And that's why it's so important to have a Senior Bowl. And so sometimes you'll get small prospects like that only had one big game, and that's the only game people will talk about or look at. The one that comes to my mind is Forrest Lamp from Western Kentucky, and they played Alabama, and everybody's going nuts about that. So that's why you look at that stuff. Even if he was out there going nuts, it's like, okay, does this translate to the other competition? And I don't know if he was in the Senior Bowl or not, so I don't know how well he did there, but that's the question that comes to my mind first. And the other thing is, if you're in a small school, you better be dominating. Now, he's a lot bigger, more physical, so it definitely seemed like he could outmatch a lot of people, but it wasn't like he was destroying everything. And you can't always do that from the safety position, so not going to blame him. But my thing, just looking at that, you saw my thoughts, that's a project. I see some high round grades on him. Like I said, built nicely, has some good explosion numbers, but people going too nuts over the numbers. For me, that's a project. The guy clearly hasn't been asked to read a whole lot. And I know he has 10 interceptions in his career or something like that. And I'm sure if I put the highlights on again, it's because you even saw that quarterback just terrible. So I'm sure he did well on his division. But to me, that's a project. He wasn't asked to read a whole lot. That was quarters that entire time. He does not have middle of the field range. Coming downhill, I think he could be a hitter, but right now he doesn't have the urgency. And he looks stiff laterally. So there's some limitations to me. I think that's a box safety. I think his best position is a box safety that is going to take some professional coaching. So that's me. I see some high round grades on him, and maybe he does turn out to be great. But I think that's some coaching, a lot of coaching that needs to go into that. So that's me. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. Tell me what you think, and thank you for listening.